What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, me, your boy, the guy, the dude, Marcus. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Everybody sharing their time with us every week is the reason I get up in the morning. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already on the platform of choice. That goes for everybody, not just drivers. It's free. Click it. It'll tell you when we put out a new episode every Wednesday at 5 a.m. Central. And, maybe it'll just make me feel a little bit better deep down inside. You could also give us a rating or a review on your podcast platform of choice. That would help us immensely. And by the way, Google Podcasts went the way of the buffalo. They ran that thing right off a cliff. It's done for, extinct, gone forever. So if you're a Google Podcast listener and you still found this, thank you for migrating platforms. Find a different one. You will also be able to find us very soon, I'm hoping, on YouTube Music. That's where Google threw all their podcasts over to. We're looking into that. In the meantime, if you want to be on YouTube, you can just go watch the YouTube videos. We put one up for each podcast every week as well. Love to have you over there. I understand looking at my talking head for a long time gets under some people's skin, but give it up for my mom and dad. They did it for 18 years, so you got to hand it to them. It was a hell of a feat. And they're still standing, although they both deserved an early retirement, if you ask me. But hey, maybe that's not the truth because I was spending their money all the way through college. So that's probably not true. Let's just focus on what matters here, and that's H&M Trucking. We've got a great episode planned for you today. It was in a meeting here a couple of weeks ago. We were talking with Eve and Sherry, and Eve said, you know who really the unsung heroes of the office are? And to be honest with you, I thought she was going to say, it's us, it's me right here in HR. She didn't. That's not Eve's way. You know that. Eve's way too gracious for that. She said accounting. They're the unsung heroes of the office. They're like the offensive linemen of the office because they do all the hard work. They get almost none of the praise. And today, right here on this podcast, we're going to change that. We're talking accounting, the unsung heroes of the office. We are going to visit with Lorraine, Simpson, and Holly Duncan just a little bit later here in the episode. Very excited about that. Denny will be joining us as well. And we're going to bring our old friend Teddy Arnold back on the show. He's a driver for H&M. It's been a while since we've talked to Teddy. I think back around Christmas or maybe a little before. So need to get him back in here and catch up, see how everything's going. Plus, we'll see if we can't get you a Big Rig Cafe, get you some traffic, weather, all the good little nuggets. It's the H&M Trucking Podcast. And it's episode 58. I'm glad you're here. I'm happy to be here. Let's get to the real stuff.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Next up here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, it's time to heap some praise on the accounting department. We never do that. We don't get to talk to very many people from the accounting department. We've had Patty Roop on here before a couple times. She always gives us fantastic information, but we're going with two new people today, two new faces here on the H&M Trucking Podcast. I've got with me Holly Duncan and Lorraine Simpson. Holly, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, Lorraine, we really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
And I shouldn't say I've just got them with me because, of course, my co-host Denny Stone is here as well, and he's familiar with the ladies.
Oh, yeah, Lorraine was my go-to. She probably wished I'd lost her phone number at some point along the way. But she always helped me out when I didn't understand something. She was patient. She didn't go, look, you dumbass. She would help me work through it, so thank you.
Well, that's how I talk to him, Lorraine, so it's okay. He's getting his dose of that.
Good.
So we brought you on today because we just wanted to talk about the accounting department. It has been billed to me and Denny as you guys are the unsung heroes of the office. You guys are in the weeds all the time. You do a lot of hard work, and without you, things would be absolute utter chaos. And so we just wanted to bring you on and say, hey, let's pat the accounting department on the back for all the great things they do for H&M Trucking. And then I asked you both, hey, bring me some things to talk about. Let's address any issues or any trends that you see in the department. Let's smooth out any rough edges. We can use the podcast for that, so let's do it. Lorraine, you sent me an email this morning. You called yourself Last Minute Lorraine. I don't care how last minute it is. There's so much good information in this email. I'm just going to let you kind of take it from the top, and you and Holly can kind of talk me through your notes here and tell me what kind of trends you're seeing and things you'd like to address in the department.
Well, sure. Well, thanks again for having us. And we wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for the drivers, too. So we appreciate all the drivers out there. I couldn't drive a truck. I couldn't do what they do. So we appreciate you and all your hard work out there. And so we just put together some notes, just to a refresher of things, just to help things run smoothly when they're scanning their paperwork in. You know, we've talked about the difference between accounting and HR and payroll. A lot of people get confused with that. So first, accounting, really, we're billing. We do the billing. We get the paperwork from the drivers, process it, pay the drivers, and then bill our customer. That's the gist of what we do. We don't have access to any of their personal information. So if they have questions on their pay stub or taxes or anything like that, we send them right to HR, even payroll and HR. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that Eve had brought up, is that we wanted to discuss the differences between, you know, payroll, accounting, you know, receiving, all these different things that kind of, they get put under the umbrella of accounting a lot of times, but you need to go to different people and call the right person. So that's exactly why we're here. And these notes, I'm just going to get out of the way again because there's so much good information here. I want to hear from you guys.
Okay. Well, first we talk about order numbers, which is the same as your load number, your trip number, your pay number. It's all the same number. And you'll hear us say that many times. But that's the most important thing for you to do to get paid correctly, is to put that number on your paperwork. Just yesterday, a driver called and said, I have a question on my paperwork. I said, what's your load number? And he didn't have it. And it should have been written right there on the paperwork. So that's really helpful for us and for the drivers, is to have that put on there the minute they get the piece of paper in their hands.
Sure.
And so that they're keeping all the paperwork organized. And so when they're scanning in everything that goes with that load under the right number. So it's really important.
Sure. Denny, do you have any comments? Load numbers when you were driving. I'm sure you were diligent and you were always Johnny on the spot with that, but ever have any issues?
Put it on every page.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, you drop your, whatever you carry your paperwork in, you drop it and things get scattered and you go, oh my God. So as soon as you get it, write it all down. I know it takes a few minutes, especially for some of these bill of ladings, but put it on every piece of
advice.
paper.
All right, what's next?
When you are delivering or you're picking up your load from a shipper, look at your paperwork carefully. And when you get to the receiver, when you hand that off to them to do what they have to do, make sure you're getting all the correct pages back from that receiver. That is your responsibility. That's your paycheck. We want you to get paid as badly as the driver does, but it's super important. We've been running into issues lately with that they are not getting all the pages back that they need to. A lot of times we pay off of the weights, especially for hoppers. So if we don't have that correct paperwork, we can't get you paid properly. So it's super important.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it. And there's one thing I see here that seems like a really important point, and that is that the receiver is not always our customer, so they might not always be just ready and waiting with everything that you need. You might have to ask some questions or dig around a little bit to get the right information that you need. Am I correct there?
Yes, you're correct. We don't always bill the customer you're delivering to. It's usually like a third-party company that we actually send the bills to get paid. So
okay.
It's not always cut and dry as the driver might think. So it's a little work to it if they don't get the correct pages back.
Sure. Now, Denny, from your experience, when you were gathering paperwork from a customer or a receiver that wasn't necessarily a customer, did you ever have difficulty finding the right pages? Do you have to get, sharp-tongued with them? Do you have to tell them, hey, I need this now? Or you just kind of keep asking the right questions until everything that you have is in your possession?
Rarely. Most of the time, they're pretty on the spot with it. They give you what you gave them. I will add one thing. I came up with my own cover sheet. It was like a half of an 8.5 by 11, and it had the load number. It had my time of arrival, time of departure. I wrote down everything, mileages. I put it all on that piece of paper because a month from now, when Lorraine calls me and goes, "Hey, load number so-and-so, I can't remember this." So that's why I made notes. And if it was multiple stops, I made notes for each and every stop. You can come up with your own. I know there are generic ones that are out there. I think even H&M had a little small thing, but my eyes aren't that good. I needed something a little bigger. So I created my own, and I referred to it a lot. It was a great tool for me.
Very cool. And I hear a lot of drivers, too, will carry notebooks with them and things like that just to keep those notes and try to stay organized. And it sounds like organization is paramount where this stuff is concerned, especially for you ladies to do your jobs. If things are just chaos when you get them, it's going to make your day a little bit longer. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. We started giving out accordion files during orientation and clipboards, all these little things that we've learned over the years to help everybody, stay organized. I always say, I don't care what kind of organization tool you use as long as it's not the Walmart bag, because I had drivers throw away the Walmart bag thinking it was trash. So anything but a Walmart bag.
I would 100% do that. That was a Marcus move that driver pulled, throwing away valuable things because you put it in an invaluable place. I love it. All right, this is great. Let's keep running through it. What else is on here that we can clean up?
Well, I think scanning we want to talk about a little bit because a lot of people are not computer savvy. I'm not. I've learned it all from here, but a lot of guys they're just not tech savvy. So they have questions with scanning. They struggle a little bit getting good pictures. So, we've got cheat sheets made up that they can follow along. I think one of the biggest things that we have when they're scanning is knowing that they scan everything in as a BOL, and they use the little camera at the bottom of the tablet. That's their add a page. So they just keep adding pages until they have them all entered, and then they hit done. So a lot of guys are making more work for themselves by taking a picture, hitting done. It takes them back to the beginning again. Take a picture, hit done, takes them back to the beginning. So this will actually save them time if they use that little camera at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And then when they're all done, if all those pages look good, then they're good to go. They can finish. But if they're not good to go, we have a second option where they can hit the BOL carbon color, and it actually takes a photograph of their document, but it doesn't allow them to crop. So the other way, they can crop it however they need to, but when they do the BOL carbon color, it doesn't allow them to crop. So it's a picture, so they have to get really close to it and take that picture. We only want the ones done that way if they're hard to read. So we don't want everything scanned in both ways. Again, that's more work for you guys and more work for us as well.
Absolutely. And you think about it, you say, oh, it's more work, and what do you think in a minute, maybe a minute and a half, but then all of a sudden you extrapolate that over 100 loads. You've lost significant time in your day just going through and doing the extra tedium in the app. So it's important to make sure to understand those buttons and do that all right. Denny, you are pretty tech savvy for your age. For your age, Denny, for your age. I was trying to be nice, and you laughed at me.
How many times has my youngest son said, unplug it and plug it back in?
That's the universal fix for technology, right? But no, you tend to pick stuff up pretty quick. Did you, when you were driving, were you using the same system, and was it pretty easy to wrap your head around? It beats the systems that we've had before. I started out when you had to bring your paperwork back or mail it in or drop it in the yellow box at the truck stop and wait a few days and hope they got it. So this is all an improvement. And one footnote I'll put in there, I see so many guys that, you have to take your 30-minute break. All right, you stop, you go in, you go to the bathroom, you walk the dog, you still got 15 minutes. Perfect time to scan your documents. You got to sit there for another 15 minutes anyway. When you get done for the day, you're ready to go in, go to the bathroom, get you something to eat, watch some TV, play game, read a book, whatever you do on your spare time. But that 30-minute break is the perfect opportunity to scan those documents and do your paperwork. We're getting a little ahead of schedule here, too, and I love it because we're going to do an episode in the future on productivity and time management. And as far as time management's concerned, these little tricks are going to be fantastic for you. And hey, you get extra time. Like, you might use that 15 minutes to scan your break, but that's 15 minutes you've saved later in your day for hanging out and reading a book or just looking at the sunrise or sunset. So all good advice, of course, as always. What else do we have here, ladies?
I would say definitely remember to preview your documents after you take that picture. After you hit the accept button, it takes you to a different screen. If it's fuzzy and you can't read it, we're not going to be able to read it. That's going to save you time with us sending you a message and asking you to rescan it. It's just one of those things that a lot of people just hurry up and send and don't take the time to actually preview that document. That would be my only advice on the scanning portion. Besides, when you take a picture, make sure you're holding that tablet or phone still for a couple of seconds after you click that button to take the image. When you move too fast, it makes that picture really blurry. So it's not going to take a good picture and you're going to have to keep retaking it.
And I'm sensing, Holly, just a shade of what I would call a headache for you when you're getting these documents and they look like they've been taken at 100 miles an hour. And obviously that doesn't save you any time to have to turn around. It's costing everybody time here is what we're finding when they're not taking good pictures. And it's something that's pretty simple to do. We just got to slow down a little bit, take our time.
Exactly. And then I don't need that big bottle of Tylenol in my drawer anymore if you guys do that.
I'm going to jump in here for a second and point out that if you'll keep your paperwork neat, a lot of times you're getting carbons. And if they get wadded up, that's going to get smeared and blurred. If you'll keep them neat, keep them nice and flat, it's going to make a nicer scan for the ladies.
Yeah, those accordion files sound like a great thing. I mean, they keep documents so well organized. It's a great idea, and clipboards as well. Great idea to give those out in orientation. All right, on to the next one. Are we working our way through the bullet points here pretty well? I feel like we're hitting the high points, ladies.
We are. Holly hit a couple of things that I wanted just to remind everybody is when they're all done and they've previewed, send. There's 3 steps to sending the documents. So some people will hit send and then just close their stuff up and walk away. You actually have to hit send 3 times and then you get a confirmation. We don't need that number, but that's just your confirmation that it came through. The other thing is she talked about messages too. So if we don't like something, if one page is not nice and pretty, we'll send you a message. So it's really helpful for us so that we don't hold up the billing process to have you reply to that the same day. You know, if it says rescan page 2, just rescan it. And then it takes about 15 minutes for it to actually hit our desks. So we don't get it instantly. It takes a little bit of time for it to reach us.
And I mean, we're all talking about, if you guys, the sooner you get this paperwork, the sooner people get paid, essentially, if I could break it down to very, I guess, minimalist view. So these 15 minutes, once they add up over the course of a day, a week, a month, a year, we're talking about possible significant delays in getting paid, and that's why we're all here. So if we clean this up, money in our pockets a little bit sooner, it sounds like.
Absolutely, yeah. We want to get the drivers paid, and then we want to get the bills sent off to our customer and get paid as well. It's frustrating when we send them off, and then they're like, well, we can't read the numbers on this, and so they bounce it back to us, and then we have to go back to the driver. So we want to be professional about it as well. We want it to look good on H&M.
For sure. And Denny, maybe you can refresh my memory here. I seem to remember something about drivers really wanting to be paid on time and correctly. So is that true? Does that hold steady for a driver?
It does. And I know that things will get, you get busy. There are days when you just literally do not have the time. But, I always tried to realize what day was the deadline, and I didn't want to dump everything on them that day or the afternoon before. Try to get your stuff in because they've got to work through whatever, they need to do to get that paycheck. So, try to be diligent if you can, but don't say, what is it, Tuesday is the cutoff or something, Wednesday?
Right. Tuesday's the cutoff at 2 o'clock Omaha time, but you can scan 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sometimes we're working from home on the weekends. There also is a new part of our automated system that you didn't experience, Denny, but every morning, early in the morning, I'm not sure exactly what time, but if you haven't scanned something in that you've delivered within a certain period, it sends out an automated message through the tablet. So if you get that message and you've just scanned it, maybe we haven't waited that 15 minutes. So those have helped a lot, I think, because your driver managers are getting that as well. So I think the timeliness of paperwork has been great. We're greatly improved. So good job.
Awesome. Well, we want to tip our caps to that too, because timeliness, once again, a very important factor in all of our jobs. So good job, drivers. I mean, we want to give credit where credit is due here. It seems like you've seen some good improvements on that front.
Yes, we have.
Awesome. Tell me about the PER on the cash receipts and EFS. I'm really interested in this one because I'm reading it and it looks like a different language to me, and it's only one sentence. So talk me through it.
So whenever the drivers are issued an EFS check or they pay out of pocket for anything, they'll have receipts they need to scan in with their loads. A lot of them don't do it, but they are supposed to do it. They need to put cash per whoever approved it, or EFS or check per. If you use your WEX card, your emergency credit card, we need you to write WEX on there. It looks exactly like a debit or credit card, so we don't know the difference. And we don't want to accidentally reimburse you and then have to take it back the next week. It's super important that they write that on there, though, to get them reimbursed.
And we don't want to be spending any of our money that we don't have to. Reimbursements, very important thing as well for drivers. So
yes,
sorry, I interrupted somebody there.
No, that's okay. I just remember Dale's thing in orientation was just remember purr like a kitten. I know he always used that. So it's just checks and balances. It's not that we don't trust anybody, but if we have a question on that particular receipt, then we know which driver manager to go back to.
And Dale, purr like a kitten coming from Dale. I mean, that guy, he carries a tough facade, but I think he's a softie. I like that guy a lot. He's given us great segments on this podcast, and I know he's listening. So Dale, thanks for coming up with the adages, and also, remember, purr like a kitten. It seems like a pretty important little 3-letter word there. Okay, so we got through that. I understand that now. That's good. Denny, any thoughts on that, or is that just kind of cut and dry?
No, makes sense to me.
All right, what's next?
Boy, I think we've caught just about everything on our list. We appreciate everything that the drivers are doing. We've seen a lot of improvement with both the timeliness and the PER has improved. But there's just those little things. So the order numbers, I think, is one of the biggest, and getting the correct paperwork. We have seen a lot more of those issues come across. So that's kind of our biggest thing right now. Oh, I did put on my notes too that when they're signing in, if they're having issues with signing in, they can call us and we can help them. But there are 2 different sign-ins, one for the Semsera tablet and a different one for the ship's mobile app. So sometimes they get a little confused on that.
Okay, and it looks like everything, your driver ID and your password need to be all in caps on those, so that's something that's important. And yeah, I mean, they'll have all the information for that, but if you're having trouble, give the ladies a call. I mean, if this podcast hasn't given you the idea, they're great to talk to. And and Holly's got a huge bucket of Tylenol on her desk that you can stop by and borrow one if this gives you a headache. So that's totally
I don't have any
works
candy, but I have Tylenol.
There you go. Well, ladies, first and foremost, I just want to thank you for putting together all of this information and bringing it to us. I will say that for Denny and I, or at least for me, accounting is the unsung heroes of the office for more than one reason. I've never had anybody prepare this well for a segment for the podcast and have this much information to give to Denny and I. You have no idea how easy that makes our jobs. You can't see my feet, but they've been kicked up this entire time. I've just relaxed. Everything's great. Denny, I'm sure from your experience in dealing with the fantastic people in the accounting department that you can probably say a few words here about the job that they do, but I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of different people all around the office, and I know that just the same as you guys say, without the drivers, we couldn't do our jobs. Without you, I don't think any of us could do ours as well. So we really appreciate it. And Denny, I'll kick it over to you.
I just want to say, I know so many times I've called Lorraine and I've said, look, I know I got this in late. Don't worry about it. I don't live paycheck to paycheck. But there are a lot of drivers out there that do, and these ladies bust their ass to get those paychecks to you. They work hard. They work harder than you do getting the paperwork in. So we appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today.
Absolutely. Holly and Lorraine, it's been fantastic. I am absolutely putting you on the list and bringing you back in the future because this means I don't even have to prep a segment. I mean, it's amazing. I can't tell you enough how much this means to me. So thank you both. Hope you have a fantastic day, what's left of it, and we'll be in touch, all right?
Thank you, too.
Y'all.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
You know, Denny, we're nothing on this program if we're not transparent, and that's why I'm going to jump right into this segment by saying this is take 2 of this conversation that we've had with our driver that we're about to welcome to the show because your infamous host didn't click record. So I take that one on my shoulders. They're broad. I can handle it. But, Denny, we're about to try to repeat a conversation that we've already had. And I don't know if in your broadcasting experience that makes you nervous, but I'm terrified right now.
I'm getting older, so it's all new to me.
Welcome to the show for take 2 of this conversation, H&M driver Teddy Arnold. Teddy, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. And not only are you guys broadcasters, but you forget that I've also have some podcast experience too. So, let me introduce myself to those that don't know. I am Teddy Arnold. I am driver of truck 2070 on the Dart Pro dedicated fleet. One of 12, so I feel pretty elite. I know you guys call us the dark side, and we've embraced that fully. And I still have yet to figure out why they call it the dark side, because it's lovely over here.
Denny, do you know why they call the Dart Pro dedicated the dark side there at H&M?
I'd say because Teddy went over there. I don't know. Just a guess.
So, Teddy, are you kind of the Darth Vader of that dark side? Are you kind of the ringleader there? Or are you guys all, is it kind of 12 equal parts? How does it go over there at the Dark Pro?
No, I would say that Brenda is our evil, is the imperial leader.
Okay,
so,
okay.
So as much as you've been talking to Miss Brenda here over the last few weeks and such, yes, Brenda is our imperial leader, and we're just her little drones, her clones. So.
And you keep your nose clean so she doesn't shock the shit out of you, right?
And I, going back to the episode about road rage, because I listened to that episode here again. I think that was like episode 20-something.
Yeah, it's back
maybe.
there a ways, yeah.
I think she suffers from a lot of road rage, I would imagine. But, she downplayed that, but. So
well, I feel like you've been on the highway with her at some point in time, and you saw this happen. Now, are you holding out on us?
No, I've never ridden with her. I get that vibe from her from talking to her that she might have issues of
I think we need to get her on here to tell her side.
We absolutely will. We'll get Brenda back on for sure and talk to her. We're going to tell her exactly this, Denny. Teddy said that you've got really bad road rage, Brenda, and just see where it goes.
No, I think we all suffer from it at one point or another. It's how we control. Once it rears its ugly head. Are you able to pull yourself back from it after about 30 or 45 seconds? If you can, have road rage for 30, 45 seconds and not want to, purge the rest of the four-wheeling traffic.
Denny, did you ever suffer with road rage? See, you seem so calm to me in every segment that we've done together. Ever since I've met you, you've been just level head, even keel, but you just laughed at me when I said that, so talk to me.
Well, I've mellowed some in my old age. I had quite the temper when I was in my 20s in the Marine Corps and stuff, but I'll tell you what actually got me through it, and I would get so mad because somebody would do something really stupid or past stupid. On purpose, they would do something that would endanger people on the road. And as much as that person might deserve me to take 80,000 pounds across their car, what if there was an innocent baby in there? that's the question I always ask myself. Yeah, he may deserve it, but what if it hurt somebody that was innocent? And that's what always reined me in the long run. That was the thing that I worried about for all the years I drove a truck, was that I was going to actually hurt some innocent person. And luckily that never happened. So I'm glad for that. But again, that's the question I always ask myself when I would get really, really upset. I no, you can't do this. You know, you get it.
Denny, I will commend you on that. Being a Marine, I commend you on being able to pull back. You know, because most Marines that I know aren't able to pull that back. You know, it's rah, 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 let me eat my crayons. So.
Yeah, well, there's good and bad everywhere, and there's good and bad in the Marine Corps. So.
Right.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. Well, I think that this podcast has actually calmed me down in my road rage a lot. Not that I wasn't already on the downslope, because I think I was kind of the same as you, Denny, and a lot of men out there. My 20s and late 20s, it started to pair off, but that was my most aggressive. And I don't know why. I think that comes from just thinking that you're invincible. You know, you haven't had one of those just jarring injuries where you get out of bed on a Wednesday and you can't walk right till Friday. You just don't respect Mother Nature at that point. And so you tend to get a little bit more keyed up in the car, and you tend to think that you're invincible. And I got to tell you, as a four-wheeler, I'm the smallest one out there. All the time, I'm the smallest one out there, so it really stands to reason that you would check your road rage as a four-wheeler.
When I was in high school, my very first car, I bought my very first car for $185 in my 10-speed bicycle. Dad and I worked on it for 6 months, and when I drove it to school, the first day of school the next year, it was beautiful. Every eye turned. It was a 1961 Austin Healey Bug-Eye Sprite, completely restored inside and out. But that thing would handle like a dream. I mean, it was like driving a go-kart, you know? And I thought I was the best driver there ever was. I'd go into downtown Houston and I would pass people in parking places. And what I realized in hindsight many, many years ago, or many, many years later, was no, I wasn't quite the Mary Andretti I thought I was. There were people that were putting on the brakes and allowing me to do this crazy shit because they didn't want to have a wreck. And there's still a lot of those just like I was out there.
There are, man. Teddy, I'm sure you see them. I'm sure you've seen some of them today.
Actually, today's been a very good day. Seems like I'm locked into this circle of Watts, Oklahoma to Collins, Mississippi. I'm down here coming into Tallulah, Louisiana right now.
Been there a time or two.
Now, we're recording this episode on, what is it, the 6th of May, just so people understand why I'm going to ask Teddy about this, because by the time the episode airs, this weather system will probably be long gone, but I've seen some crazy weather warnings for this week in Oklahoma. Do you think you're going to be fighting with any of that out there, Teddy?
I really don't know. All I know is that being that we're recording it today, I am paying close weather eye, even though I'm not at home. These storms are affecting my hometown of Oklahoma City.
Okay.
I have seen numerous tornado watches be issued for the surrounding counties, and that area has already been hit so much in the last 2 weeks. And I've lived in Oklahoma for 9 years, and I've never seen it this wet. I worked in the road construction end of it and the construction end of it, hauling rock and dirt. And I know that the guys that are still doing that, they're starving right now, because if you can't get in there and move the dirt, you're not going to make any money. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I hope that everything goes well. I hope your family and your loved ones and close ones and everybody stay safe, and you included out there. And for the drivers listening, I'm sorry that we're not further ahead of this. I'm sure that Denny's probably hit it in some of his weather reports between now and then, but I just looked at a weather map and I saw kind of a green outline that reached as far as the northeast corner of Oregon. It turned yellow in the Midwest, and then there was one big red blob, and it was right dead center over Oklahoma. And I just don't know how you guys do it out there in the Midwest with the tornadoes. We've had one tornado in my lifetime in the state of Oregon. It touched down in a little town called Almsville and tore a stripe right through the middle of that little community. And you guys see that stuff out there in the Midwest all the time, every single year. Those tornadoes are absolutely terrifying to me. And maybe it's because I don't have the experience with them, but man, I don't know how you guys live in an area where those things can just touch down and rip through. Are you, this time of year, are you just constantly on edge?
I've got a picture because actually this is my 8th spring in Oklahoma. The first tornado season I had, we were experiencing not only the tornadoes and everything, but we were going through a rash of earthquakes. So I've got a picture of me with a beer in one hand looking up at the sky in a lawn chair out in the middle of the driveway, experiencing my first Quaker-nado.
Quaker-nado. Good Lord. You didn't enjoy it at all, did you? I can tell.
Oh, I loved it.
Denny, are you on edge about them?
I will say that when we were looking for property, we still lived in Florida at the time, and we were looking all over the place. The book was wide open. And I was looking at some property in Missouri and Arkansas and Oklahoma, and Dawn said, no. I'm like, why? She goes, tornadoes. I said, well, tornadoes no worse than a hurricane. She goes, a hurricane doesn't sneak up on you in the middle of the night. I'm not living there.
So you got the law laid down.
She doesn't.
Your decision was made for you.
She rarely voices a really strong opinion, but she was definite on that one. I am not living in Tornado Alley. Forget it. Find somewhere else.
Well, I agree. I'm right there with her. And Teddy, I just hope everybody makes it through safe, and that you guys are, the water that you're talking about, the precipitation starts to worry me as far as floods will be concerned. You don't want to be dealing with a tornado and a flood at the same time, but you're kind of staring that in the face right now, aren't you?
Well, I wasn't in Denny's area, but I delivered Friday morning in Texas, and is it Conroe, Texas, that's up there by Houston?
Yeah, Conroe is just north of Houston. In fact, I grew up just southeast of there, where it really got hit hard by the San Jacinto River. I lived there from 4th grade through high school.
Yeah,
and they're flooded. I checked on my friends there, and all of them thankfully are okay. But he said there's one house on the river on 12-foot stilts that had 3 feet of water in the house. So yeah, they got it bad.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was bad down there on Friday, but we. Seeing how this is take 2, I told you the last time we recorded that tornado that took out the Dollar Tree warehouse there in Marietta, Oklahoma. It also struck a good friend of mine, and he lost. I mean, there's nothing on his foundation. The house is completely gone off the foundation. He lost his motorcycle, his 3 cars, he runs at the local drag strip. He lost the drag car. They ended up finding his motorcycle 3 miles away, wrapped in a 30-foot cottonwood tree.
Wow,
man.
Jeez, that's crazy. You can throw a motorcycle 3 miles with one of these things. You see why I'm terrified? I don't want anything. I don't even want to be a state away. Oh, and by the way, I just looked up some numbers here. You said it hit the Dollar Tree warehouse there. That was a grand total of $652 worth of damage there. So
my buddy David told me a long time ago,
stuff.
I was on some back road somewhere, and he says, have you seen a Dollar General? I said, yeah. He goes, you're okay. He said, any road that's got a Dollar General, his truck are okay.
Yeah. Well, moving forward a little bit past weather here, I want to talk to you a little bit, Teddy. Of course, one of the other times we had you on the podcast, we brought up and were introduced to the Truckers Christmas group. You were the one that turned us on to them. We had the chairman of that group on the show. Drove some donations their way back around Christmas, which is really cool. Truckers Christmas group, of course, gathers donations and then helps out truckers and their families when they're down on their luck or having some financial troubles over the holidays. We are absolutely going to bring you back on later on and talk to you a little bit closer to Christmas about that. But you had an idea that you brought up to me in both our first recording session and in a phone call before that, where you were wondering if maybe some H&M drivers wanted to help out. And I just wanted to chat with you and bring that up real quick here because it's very important to me. I think it's a fantastic organization, and anything that's helping truck drivers out, especially in a market like we're in right now, is something that I want to stand behind. So talk to me a little bit about your idea, Teddy, that you had for H&M.
Well, my idea is this, that maybe starting in June, the powers that be will allow us to put $1 or $2 or whatever you feel you can give per week out of your check and put that into a fund, in kind of like an escrow. Let's call it an escrow. And at just before, they give away their money as a group, we just give Truckers Christmas Group that money, that one lump sum donation, rather than a few drivers just, at that time dip in their pocket and give what, maybe $25, $30 or whatever they can afford. If they can afford $500, then great. But if we start this in June, if you give $5, if you stop, and don't buy a Starbucks coffee or an HTO or whatever, a week, you give up one of those that you're going to get, and you give that, we've got basically 5 months. I'll call it 5 months because you're going to give it to them sometime in December at $5 a week. Let's see, that's 20, 40, 60. That's $100 that you're not even going to miss, if we do that.
Mm-hmm. And a huge help too. That goes a long way.
And a huge help. If we have, say it's $100 per driver, okay, and we've got 225. I think Jim said we've got 225 trucks on the road right now, or 275 last week or 2 weeks ago in the podcast. But if every one of those drivers did that at $100, that's going to help at least 3 families out of this group.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know that just based on the drivers that I've talked to and knowing how many good people work at H&M, that is probably something that would take off. And I did talk to president of H&M Trucking, James Fonda, about this in the meantime between our first take and our second year, Teddy, and he was more than happy to kind of run that by. He's got somebody there in the office. Brittany is working on some charitable things for H&M Trucking, and he's going to bring that up with her. So we'll see if we can make that happen, because I would love to have the podcast be instrumental in breaking off a huge chunky donation for the Truckers Christmas Group.
In addition to that, we can put out a, say, weekly or bi-weekly reminder on the Facebook page as well that reaches people, because there's a lot of people on the H&M Friends Facebook page that aren't necessarily drivers with H&M. And you mentioned drivers, but we've also got mechanics and office people, and these people, we'd welcome their money. I say you would welcome their money as well. So get the word out any way we can.
It was just an easy, it was just an easy way to come up with a number that people could identify with. But yeah, it would be great. And the years that I was, experienced with actually being part of the Trucker Christmas Group when they were attached to the charity where I was, was with, we only would get anywhere from $9,000 to $10,000 in donations, a year through this thing. So can you imagine? And we would help 10 to 13 families with that money.
Wow.
So if H&M could be instrumental in giving a $10,000, the employees of H&M could be instrumental in giving a $10,000 donation. Can you imagine how many more people that they could help?
Absolutely.
Because with that organization, what they do, and I want to come back on in November and talk about this, is starting just around Thanksgiving, they start taking nominations for these families. And then with all these applications, they reach out to the families and they get their story. And one story that really sticks in my mind is it's a driver who had to get off the road because of a health situation that he was trying to get better for. And in the process of going through that, had a home fire where they lost a child and the home and everything that they had, and just could not recover. They weren't going to have a Christmas for the rest of the family. Weren't going to have anything. No family dinner, nothing. And when you call that person up on the 19th or 20th of December and say, look, you are one of the chosen ones that we are going to help, and hear the hear the relief in their voice and the tears, it gets you in the feels. Okay?
I can tell. I can tell it's getting you in the feels just talking about it.
It does. It still does to this day. That's a call I will remember for the rest of my life.
That's really cool. That's something that's amazing to have as a memory there, Teddy. And we're going to do whatever we can here. If we can't set it up through H&M, we'll see if we can set it up elsewhere. If nothing else, we're going to give you all the information that you need, and that way you can go to the website. And hey, if you know a family, nominate them. They start taking nominations, like Teddy said, sometime around November, December time. You got to go and let people know their story, because in times like this, one thing I notice is that you need a friend that will step up and nominate you, because especially truck drivers are pull themselves up by their bootstraps type people. They don't put their hand out and look for a handout. And a lot of times you might not even know that somebody is suffering in this way, because finances are something we don't talk about a lot openly with a lot of people. So nominate somebody, donate to the foundation, all those things we will make sure we make available to you if you're listening to this podcast. And Teddy, I just thank you, man, for bringing this to our attention back when you did last year. And we're going to keep it moving, man. We'll keep pushing this snowball down the hill, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's the only way it's going to get bigger.
Yep.
And folks also realize it takes a lot out of those volunteers, and they lose a lot of volunteers over the years. So if you can't give monetarily, give your time. You would be surprised how much these organizations value your time.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we're just having a little bit of a Christmas in May here, and we're all, it's bringing good tidings to the world. So I'm glad that we're talking about this, and we'll get you back on in the future a little bit closer to when we need to start getting money pouring in and volunteers and everything like that.
Sounds great to me. So now, Mr. Denny, Mr. Wild Bill, or I can't remember what you call your little kitchen there. I've got a recipe for you that I'm fixing to make tonight.
You got to send it to me so we can put it on there.
What are you making?
I am going to make me some spaghetti in my Instapot here in the truck.
Perfect. Those things are so versatile. You can make anything in an Instant Pot.
Well, over the weekend, I made me some chicken and dumplings using part of Denny's idea of taking a rotisserie chicken. So much easier, even though I could have cooked the chicken there in the Instapot. It was just so much better to just take that rotisserie chicken, because it's got, all the flavors already infused in it. And I love rotisserie chicken in the first place. But
they were cheaper than buying a raw chicken. You can get those
rotisserie chickens for nothing. Yeah, exactly. So
that I didn't feel like picking all the bones out of that Instapot, So I it's just easier. I could let that chicken cool and pick it apart, lickety split. Oh, it was so good. Oh, so good.
I love it, man. Keep the recipes coming to all you drivers out there, H&M drivers that are listening. If you're making food in your truck and you've got my number, I love it when you guys send me pictures of what you're making, because I'll even pull ideas from it to make right here at home, because it all looks so damn good.
I've been begging for people to share recipes with me
that.
so I can actually share that on the podcast. And also, I never used the air fryer. I was towards the tail end of my driving career when those really became trucker friendly. So I've never used one on the truck, particularly the one that's a microwave and an air fryer. So anybody that's got one of those and starts making really good meals, I would love for you to send me some stuff. Even, we can maybe get on the phone and talk about it. But, yeah, I'm going to run out of recipes here at some point.
Yeah, the Big Rig Cafe's only got so long of a menu, right?
Well, Denny, you probably remember these days of cooking in the lunch boxes. The home lunch boxes. And then they came out with that, Burton came out with that digital cooker that you could vary the temperature at. And I can't tell you how many meatloafs or the Zatarain's instant jambalayas I've made in that, over the years. But I've cooked in the truck probably for, I'd say, 15 years.
Have you ever done one of the engine block recipes where you just, you wrap everything up in foil and stick it up under the hood, or is that something that's just a myth?
No, I've never done that, but I had an uncle who hauled asphalt in Michigan, and he would cook his lunch in the hot asphalt.
Oh, wow. I never thought of that. It makes sense.
He would make hobo meals in the tin foil, and when it was getting ready to be lunchtime, ultimately you'd pull up on the side of the road and you'd be waiting for your turn to go into the paver. So, when he loaded that load around lunchtime, he'd just go up and put that tin foil in the asphalt. By the time he got to the job site and it was his turn to unload, before he'd unload, he'd go up, pull the tin foil off, set it in the seat next to him, and then he'd cool it off. I've also got, here's a story for you. 1976, my dad was out plowing snow for the county road commission, and back then the plow controls were all electrical. They weren't hydraulic. And he had a Stanley thermos roll off of the battery box in the International and go over and weld itself to the electric controls for that plow.
Oh man, how many times could you try to make that happen and actually pull it off? But the one time you don't want it to happen, you've got a welded Stanley thermos. I love it.
When I was running that coast to coast thing years ago, I had that lunchbox oven, and I decided I was going to cook a pork loin in it. Well, I finally cooked it, but it took all the way from Kingman, Arizona to Texas.
He cooked a pork loin like a brisket.
It's that little round
like,
one that was just the right size to fit in there. But hey, and by the way, if anybody's got one of those, don't buy those stupid trays. Just get you some heavy duty aluminum foil. Then you don't have to clean it out or anything. Just take it out there and throw it away. And by the way, hobo lunches are on the list. I'm going to cover that one of these days.
Awesome. Well, I love what Bill's Big Rig Cafe provides. The shepherd's pie. You think about shepherd's pie, and the times that if you've made it in the kitchen or at home, it's always this big undertaking. And now I have this recipe that is not a big undertaking at all. It's simple, it's easy, and next time shepherd pie is going to take me 45 minutes rather than the hours that I've spent on it. Love the Big Rig Cafe, and also, we're going to have a website for H&M Trucking's podcast page here in a while. It's in the works. The web developers are doing some great work with it. We will share all the recipes up there so that if you're looking for one of the Bill's Big Rig Cafe episodes recipes, you can just jump in there and grab it. As for now, if you want those recipes from here forward, we're going to be sharing them in the episode description of the podcast. They'll be there as well. So keep your eyes out for that website soon. We're almost out of time here, gentlemen, but I do want to tell you guys something. Teddy, this is pretty cool. As a driver for H&M, there is a gift for you waiting at the office. And you have to go up and you have to say one thing to Eve or Sherry. And that is just... Stay fresh, cheese bag. Stay fresh, cheese bags. That's exactly right. You remembered it from our first conversation. Attaboy.
No, I actually remembered it. Twofold, from the first conversation and the podcast I've been catching back up on. But I also want to touch base, go back to some of the other thing we were talking about, HTO. and Denny a couple episodes was talking about the one that is trucker friendly. I know of one other trucker friendly restaurant that has a drive-through, and I want to say it's between I-20 and Nacogdoches, Texas, and it's a Whataburger that has a drive-through for big trucks.
I know where you're talking about.
And
okay, that's I think on 259, just north of Nacogdoches, isn't it?
Yes,
okay.
I believe so.
And you guys love your Whataburger out there in Texas,
puts
don't
in and
you,
out
Denny?
to shame.
Hey, it's all right. Exactly. Now I won't downplay it. A double animal style with animal fries and a Neapolitan shake. I won't turn that away. But a Whataburger is by far better, in my opinion. And you can take your Five Guys and you can stick it up your. Okay.
That's a lot to put up there.
Five Guys.
All right. I think that's a good place to end take 2 of this conversation before we end up having to do a take 3. Teddy Arnold, so fun talking to you again, catching up with you here. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for everything that you do for H&M and all the charity work, everything like that, man. You're a great guy, and we love talking to you here on the podcast.
Anytime. You want to get me on with 3 or 4 drivers and have us, just
Gossip?
freestyle. I almost called it freebasing, but no, freestyle.
That'll get you a mark on the record.
Yeah, I'm not looking to get on that clearinghouse. Okay. No,
Don't forget to go in and say "Stay Fresh" cheese bags to either Eve or Sherry. And drivers, please do this for me, just for the sake of comedy. Give it no context. Just walk up to them and throw it right out there, and then have your conversation with them. Because that will give Eve and Sherry a big laugh. And also, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's a really sweet free gift that they've got for you. I've been instructed to keep my mouth shut about exactly what it is because they're worried that it might start a run on their offices. So go in there next time you're in there, drivers. Say "Stay Fresh" cheese bags to Eve or Sherry and pick up a free gift courtesy of the H&M Trucking Podcast. Thanks again, Teddy. Stay safe out there. Keep the shiny side up, all right?
Will do, bud.
That's all for episode 58 here on the H&M Trucking Podcast. That was awesome. Really appreciate Holly Duncan, Lorraine Simpson, and Teddy Arnold for joining me. And of course, can't forget about my guy, Denny Stone, always pulling his weight around here, providing us with a ton of great content for this episode and all the other ones he's been on. Love that guy. Just so glad that we brought him onto this podcast to join this amazing team because he has made it twice as good as it was originally. And that's just simple math. You guys, I told you I've never really been a numbers guy. There used to be one of us. There's 2 of us now. Bang. We're twice as good. It's that simple. But really, all the experience that Denny has, not just in truck driving, in broadcasting, and all the other things that he's done in his life, including the dude's going to be like trying to train for marathons, or at least get as close to it as he can. That's amazing. You make me run 3/4 of a mile right now, it'll be the last 3/4 of a mile I travel in my lifetime. That's a fact. Thanks to everybody. Click subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps us, and we will see you around the corner for episode 59 of the H&M Trucking Podcast. Did you think I was going to forget? Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.